Have you ever looked around your business and thought, why doesn't this feel the way I thought it would? Maybe your business is growing and you're hitting goals you only once dreamed about. Maybe everyone around you thinks that you've got it all together, but behind the scenes, you're exhausted. You're carrying every decision. You're questioning yourself more than you'd ever like to admit. And quietly, you're wondering whether you're really cut out for this next stage of leadership. My friend, if that's you, this is the episode you need to hear. Welcome to the People Side of Business, the podcast for female founders learning how to lead, manage, and scale a team with confidence. I'm Lindsay White, leadership coach, team strategist, and fractional HR expert. And each week, we tackle the real leadership challenges business owners face every day. From difficult conversations and employee performance issues to hiring mistakes, team dynamics, and building a workplace culture that actually supports business growth. Because the truth is, nobody teaches founders how to lead people when their business starts to grow. And figuring it out the hard way can be exhausting. This show is here to change all that. So if you're ready to become a stronger leader, make better people decisions, and build a business that doesn't depend on you carrying everything alone, you're in the right place. Let's do this. Well, hi, friend. Welcome back to the podcast, The People Side of Business. I am so glad you're here with me today. Over the last couple of episodes, we've been talking about what it really takes to build a business that can grow without you sacrificing yourself in the process. We've talked about creating the right rhythms. We've talked about creating a more strategic plan for your people decisions. And today, I want to take that conversation one step further, because here's what I've learned after years of working with founders. There comes a point where the next stage of growth isn't waiting for another strategy. It isn't waiting for another hire. It doesn't need another productivity hack. It's actually waiting for you. Or more specifically, it's waiting for you to become the leader your business has been needing. Now, I know that feels like a really big, heavy statement, but stay with me here. Because today, I want to tell you a story about one founder. Not because her story is unique in any way, but because I think you're going to hear pieces of your own story in hers. And maybe, just maybe, you'll begin to see that the confidence you're looking for isn't something you need to find. It's something that's actually been there all along. So let me tell you this story about my client. We're going to call her Sarah. And when Sarah and I first started working together, her business was really growing. It was doing incredibly well. She had a fantastic reputation. She'd built a really capable team. Clients loved working with her. Revenue was growing. From the outside, everyone thought she had it all figured out. But that's not the Sarah that I met. I met the Sarah who had pulled over in her car before driving home because she didn't want her partner and her family to see her crying. When I met Sarah, she said, I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this. And that was really real. And it wasn't because she was failing. It was actually because she was succeeding. And she was terrified that she couldn't keep up. She told me she felt like she was constantly putting out fires instead of actively leading and growing her business. Every decision landed on her desk. Every decision came back to her. Every approval required her input. Her team was smart and they were really capable, but somehow she still felt responsible for everything. She described herself as feeling stretched so thin that there was almost nothing left. The business needed her team needed her clients, her family really needed her. And somewhere in all of that, she'd actually stopped taking care of herself. Her health was suffering, like really suffering. She couldn't switch off. She'd lie awake at night, just replaying conversations in her head. She dreaded Mondays. She really had the Sunday night scaries because she already knew that there would be another list of problems waiting for her. And here's the really heartbreaking part. She felt like a fraud. Can you imagine that? A woman who has built an incredible business, who had clients that adored her and loved the work that her and her team produced, who had people lining up. She had a wait list, this woman. But she was still quietly wondering, maybe I'm not actually cut out for this. Maybe you've had that thought too, my friend. Maybe you've looked around the business that you've built and thought, surely this could feel easier by now. Why am I still carrying everything? Why is it always me? Why does everyone keep coming to me for every decision? Why does it feel like if I stop even for a moment, everything's going to fall apart? And if that's where you are right now, I want you to know something. You are not failing. You are growing. But your leadership needs to grow with your business. So I'm going to pause here just for a second, because if you're listening to Sarah's story and you're quietly thinking, oh, that's me, I want you to hear this. You don't have to carry your business alone. In fact, you were never meant to. And one of the loneliest parts of being a founder is believing that because you're the leader, you're the most senior person in your business, you're the founder, you have to hold everything together, that you can't break. That there's no one you can really tell how you're feeling. You don't want to burden your team. You don't want to worry your partner. Your friends don't quite understand because maybe they're not an entrepreneur. And from the outside, you look successful. So you just keep carrying it. And it becomes really heavy. And that's exactly why I created my Spark Sessions. Not because I think founders need someone to tell them what to do. You don't need to hear that from me. But because every founder deserves a strategic thinking partner. Someone who can help you untangle what's really going on, ask you better questions, challenge your thinking, and really help you connect with your vision. And what I do is help you become the leader your business has been waiting for. If Sarah's story already feels a little too familiar, my friends, I want to invite you to book a Spark session with me. Sometimes one conversation can change everything. Now let's get back to Sarah's story. One of the things I realized was that Sarah didn't actually have a capability problem. You don't have a capability problem, clearly. And what Sarah had was a leadership identity problem. She believed that being a great leader meant carrying everything. She also believed that if she delegated something and it went wrong, she had somehow failed. She believed that if someone on her team was struggling, that she had to go and rescue them. And she believed that if she didn't know the answer, people would completely lose confidence in her. And can I tell you that I see this over and over again, especially with women founders. We confuse caring with carrying. I'm going to say that again. We confuse caring with carrying. We are so deeply caring about our people that we start carrying them. We care deeply about our clients, so we carry more. We care deeply about delivering exceptional work. And because we care, we slowly convince ourselves that we have to hold everything all together all the time. We become the bottleneck, the landing place, the go-to desk, the rescuer, without ever intending it to be like that. Not because we don't trust our team, because we're scared of letting them down. We're scared of letting ourselves down. And underneath all of that is another voice. That's that inner critic. And if you've listened to the show for a while, you've heard me talk about the inner critic, the saboteur before. You know the one. It's that voice that whispers, you should know the answer. Don't let anyone see you struggle. If you don't stay involved, something will go wrong. You're the founder. You can't afford to make mistakes. Or you should have this all figured out. That voice became louder than Sarah's own leadership. And before we ever talked strategy, before we ever talked about her team or her systems, we had to quiet that voice. Because leadership doesn't start with a framework. It starts with believing that you're capable of leading at that next level. And that's where the work with Sarah really began. So, where do we start? Again, not with her team, not with her org chart, not with a strategic planning session, although we did all of that work. But what we did was we started with her. Because before Sarah could become the leader her business really needed, she had to reconnect with the leader that she's actually always been. One of the very first conversations we had wasn't about KPIs or performance reviews. It was about her vision. I asked her, why did you start this business? Not what services she offered, not what revenue targets she had, but why? What impact did she want to have? What difference did she want to make? Who did she want to become along the way? And as she talked, as we worked in our coaching sessions, something beautiful happened. You could literally hear her energy returning to her voice. And she remembered why she took the risk in the first place. She remembered the people she wanted to serve. Why was she so passionate about her business? She remembered that starting this crazy thing was because she's incredibly good at what she does. She's an expert. And somewhere between building the business and carrying the business, she'd forgotten that. Once she reconnected with her vision and her mission, we started working on something else. That was her leadership. We're not talking leadership skills. We're talking identity, because there's a huge difference. Leadership skills are what you do. Leadership identity is who you believe you are. We spent time getting really curious about her inner critic, that constant conversation, that head trash we all have running through our mind. The one that's telling us that we need to have every answer. The one that was trying to convince Sarah she couldn't let anyone down. That's that one that's whispering that she wasn't involved in every decision, everything would fall apart. Instead of listening to that critical inner voice, that saboteur, I encouraged her to start asking some different questions. The biggest one was, what's the most strategic leadership move you can make right now? And sometimes that meant just asking another question instead of giving an answer. Sometimes it meant letting a team member work through a problem instead of stepping in to rescue. Sometimes it meant sitting with the discomfort of not stepping in. And can I tell you something? It was incredibly hard for Sarah. And I was with her every step of the way. She did remarkable. Because if you're like Sarah, you've spent years believing your value comes from being busy and solving problems, and then choosing not to get involved and not to solve them feels impossible. But leadership isn't about proving how capable you are. It's about building capability in the people around you. When we're the most impactful as a leader, we're building other leaders. And that's when Sarah stopped trying to be the smartest person in every room. She started becoming the leader who asked the best questions and listened with the greatest curiosity. What happened? Well, she became clearer about expectations. She clarified accountability. She clarified what the real issues were. She stopped making assumptions and started having conversations. And maybe most importantly, she started trusting herself. And the moment came, and I'll never forget this. It was just a couple Saturday mornings ago. My phone rang and I saw that it was Sarah. Now, when I answered, I expect she was calling because something had gone wrong. I'll be perfectly honest. That's normally the phone calls I get on the weekend. But instead, she said, I just had one of the hardest conversations I've ever had with a team member. She'd had to give some pretty tough feedback, but it was incredibly fair. And she did it really well. She reset expectations, she clarified accountabilities, and she explained exactly what success looked like moving forward and why. Now, the team member wasn't particularly happy. They weren't thrilled, but they knew exactly where they stood. And then there was a little pause in our conversation, and she laughed and said, I actually did it. And I just had the biggest smile on my face. Not because she'd had the difficult conversation, although that's a celebration in itself. It was who she had become that moved me. Because just a few months earlier, that same conversation would have kept her awake all night. She would have stewed on it Saturday night into Sunday. She would have replayed every sentence. She would have wondered if she'd been too hard. She'd have second guessed herself. Maybe she'd even gone back and apologized. Probably taken the work back herself because it felt easier than letting someone else struggle. Instead, she trusted herself. She trusted the process. She trusted her own leadership. And she trusted that clarity is one of the greatest gifts we can give our team. It wasn't the feedback conversation that particularly impressed me. It was who she was being in that moment. She wasn't calling me to ask what she should do. She was calling to tell me what she'd already done. And that, my friends, is stepping into leadership. And here's the interesting thing. Her confidence didn't suddenly appear on Saturday morning. That doesn't happen. She'd been building it for months, one courageous conversation at a time, one difficult decision, one moment of choosing leadership over fear. That's how our confidence grows. Not all at once, but one decision, one conversation at a time. Then it came another moment that perfectly summed up everything we've been working on for weeks. Sarah went away on a holiday with her family. And like most founders, she packed her laptop. I think we all do that. She expected that she'd be checking emails every morning. And she told her team that she would be, that she'd be logging in for a period of time. And about 2 or 3 days into her vacations, she sent me an email and it simply said, checking my email is an absolute waste of time. Her team had it handled. Clients were being looked after. Projects were moving forward. Decisions were happening without her. Now, if you're a founder listening to this, you know exactly what that means. That this isn't about taking a holiday. It's about the freedom that we built these damn businesses to have in the first place. It's about trust, and most importantly, trust in ourselves. It's about building a business that doesn't stop every time you step away. But the moment that really stayed with me when all of this happening just in the last couple of weeks, we were wrapping up one of our recent coaching sessions, and she said to me, I've never felt more like myself. I'm feeling so much lighter and clearer, and I can really feel my confidence coming back. And I see where we need to go and how we're going to build together. I can really feel it. And I'll be honest with you, that was one of those moments that every coach hopes for. And it just makes my heart soar when I hear that. So yes, her business is stronger. Her team is more accountable. She's making better strategic decisions because she has the time and the capacity to make them. And that's not what made me smile, although I'm pretty happy about all of that. What made me smile was hearing her say, I've never felt more myself, because that's what stepping into leadership really is. It's not pretending to be someone else. It's not taking someone else's playbook and trying to wedge yourself into it. It's not about being louder or tougher or having every answer or being the smartest person in the room. It's about remembering who you are underneath all of that pressure. It's about reconnecting with your vision and your passion, trusting your expertise. It's believing that your role isn't to carry the business. Your role is to lead it. Here's what I want you to take away from Sarah's story. Confidence isn't something you find. It's something you remember. It's been there all along. It's simply been buried underneath the pressure of trying to carry everything yourself and trying to build a business. So if you've been listening today and you see yourself in Sarah's story, if you're exhausted, if you're carrying every decision, if you're quietly wondering whether you're really cut out for this entrepreneur life, I want to invite you to book that Spark session with me right now. Not because I have all the answers for you, but because I can help you find them. And every founder deserves someone who sit beside them, ask the hard questions, challenge the thinking, hold your hand while you sort it out, and help you see what's possible. Someone who help you reconnect with your vision, quiet your inner critic, and build the confidence to lead the business that you worked so hard to create. Sometimes the most important investment you can make isn't another marketing strategy or another piece of technology. Sometimes it's investing in yourself as a leader, because your business will only ever grow as far as you do. So if you're ready, let's have that conversation. I would genuinely love to help you take the next step, because maybe the leader your business has been waiting for is actually the leader that you've been all along. You just need the confidence to trust her. So my friends, I hope you've really enjoyed hearing Sarah's story today. I hope that you have found parts of this to connect with, parts of this that are inspirational. So until next time, take care of yourself. Lead with courage, lead with intention, and remember, you can become the leader your business has been waiting for. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The People Side of Business. If this conversation resonated with you, make sure to subscribe to the show and share it with other founders in your world. And keep coming back each week for practical leadership strategies to help you lead, manage, and scale your team with more confidence. And if you're sitting in the middle of people challenges right now, whether it's leadership, team dynamics, hiring, culture, or difficult conversations, and you're realizing you don't want to figure it out alone, I'd love to support you. You can book a leadership strategy session with me through the link in the show notes or at highvoltageleadership.ca. I'd love to hear what you learned from today's episode, so come connect with me on Instagram at highvoltleadership or on LinkedIn. And remember, the people side of business is the business. I'll see you next time.
This podcast is produced, mixed, and edited by Cardinal Studio. For more information about how to start your own podcast, please visit www.cardinalstudio.co or email Mike at mike@cardinalstudio.co. You can also find the details in the show notes.